"You're 5 people in one body," Bruce Springsteen whispered. The boss had just watched Prince play drums like Max Weinberg, bass like Gary Talent, guitar with blues soul, and sing with rock grit, all in 20 minutes, all alone in Paisley Park's purple-lit Studio B. What Bruce called sterile, because it lacked a band, turned out to be the most concentrated soul in rock, not spread across 8 people, but compressed into one person who contained multitudes. But Prince's 5 souls in one body wasn't supernatural ability. It was the result of 20 years studying every E Street Band member individually, internalizing their feel, then filtering them through his own vision until he could have conversations with himself that sounded like conversations between musicians. 1995, Paisley Park, Minnesota. Prince had invited Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band to record at his studio, gesture of respect between legends. All day, Studio A had been filled with the sound of live band. Energy, Bruce's style, 8 musicians playing together, capturing moments, building chemistry, sweat, eye contact, mistakes that became magic. That's how the boss had always worked. 11 p.m., session wrapped for the night. E Street Band members packed their instruments, headed to hotels scattered across Minneapolis suburbs. Tired but satisfied with the day's work, the way they always were after collective creation, Bruce stayed behind, talking to engineers about tomorrow's plan, going over tape from today's session. That's when he heard it. Music coming from Studio B. Bruce walked toward the sound. Curious. Who's recording this late? He found the door slightly open, looked inside. Purple lights casting shadows across equipment. Single figure at the mixing console. Prince, alone, surrounded by instruments. Drums, bass guitars, keyboards, microphones positioned throughout the room like soldiers waiting for orders. Bruce entered, voice friendly. "Hey, Prince! Didn't know you were still here." Prince turned, surprised but composed. "Bruce, how was the session?" "Great. Real rock, live band energy. The way it should be done." Bruce paused, looking around the empty studio. "What are you doing? Working alone?" "Always work alone at night. Prefer it." Bruce pushed the door open wider, entering uninvited but without malice. Voice friendly, casual. "Hey, Prince. Didn't know you were still here. Thought everyone went to bed." Prince waited, giving Bruce space to continue. "Rock and roll isn't a solo sport. Real soul, that comes from a band. Musicians sweating together. Eye contact during the bridge. Mistakes that turn into magic. Human energy bouncing between people." Bruce gestured at the empty studio. "You here, alone, with machines, MIDI, overdubs. It's technical. Perfect. But," he searched for the right word, "sterile. Missing that live grit. American working-class sweat. That's rock soul. Can't capture it alone in a purple room." Prince's expression remained unchanged. "You think my music is sterile? Not an insult, just different philosophy. I need my guys, the band. You're self-sufficient. But maybe too self-sufficient, something gets lost." Bruce thought he was offering wisdom earned from 40 years of collective creation. But Prince was about to prove that collective energy could exist entirely within one person who'd learned to be his own band. Prince stood from the mixing console slowly, deliberately, walked across the purple carpet to the studio door, locked it with a decisive click that echoed in the small space. Bruce's eyebrows raised. Prince? Sit." Prince pointed to the purple couch in the corner. "What? You said I can't capture real soul alone. That my music is sterile because there's no band." "Well, I didn't mean—" Prince interrupted, voice calm but firm. "I'm going to show you something. 20 minutes? Just watch. Don't speak." Bruce studied Prince's face. No anger, just intense focus, the kind of focus that made people pay attention. "Okay," Bruce said, settling onto the couch. 20 minutes. Prince moved to the drum kit, positioned in the center of the studio, his movements purposeful. Adjusted the throne height with precision, sat down, tested the pedal tension, put on studio headphones, the cable coiling behind him. The purple lights made the chrome drums look like they were glowing from within, ethereal. He reached over to the console, hit record on the 24-track tape machine. Red light appeared. The reels began turning. Bruce watched, arms crossed, curious but skeptical. Prince was talented, sure, but one person couldn't capture what 8 people created together. That wasn't how rock worked. What Bruce didn't understand yet was that Prince wasn't about to replace the E Street Band. He was about to demonstrate that he'd internalized all of them so completely that they lived inside him as separate voices. Prince started playing, not tentatively, not building up. Full commitment from the first hit. The groove was rock foundation. Driving, steady, Springsteen-style drums, the kind Max Weinberg had perfected over decades. 4-on-the-floor kick drum, snare on 2 and 4, hi-hat keeping time with mechanical precision that somehow still felt human, but Prince added something Bruce recognized immediately. Syncopation. Funk influence bleeding into the rock structure, ghost notes between the main beats, subtle hi-hat openings that created breathing space. The fills were complex but felt live, not programmed, not calculated, instinctive, like someone who'd played drums since childhood and absorbed every style until they all lived in his muscle memory. Bruce leaned forward. Okay, he can play drums. Didn't know that, but one instrument isn't. Then he noticed the sweat beginning to form on Prince's forehead. The physical intensity. Prince was attacking those drums like his life depended on. The groove. This wasn't someone dabbling. This was someone who knew drums from the inside. 4 minutes of drumming, 1 take, no stops, no corrections, just pure rhythmic foundation building in real time. Prince hit a final crash cymbal, let it ring, then stopped. Pressed stop on the console, rewound, set the drum track to loop. He stood from the kit, grabbed a bass guitar from the stand, Hefner violin bass, vintage design. Bruce's mind was working. Wait, he's layering, building the track alone, instrument by instrument. But Bruce still thought he was watching technical facility. He hadn't yet understood that Prince wasn't just playing instruments, he was embodying different musicians' souls in sequence. Prince plugged the bass into the amp, adjusted the tone, put the headphones back on, hit record again. The drums filled his ears through the headphones, his own drumming from 4 minutes ago, now a separate entity he had to follow and complement. He began playing over them, walking bass lines, rock foundation moving forward with purpose, locking with the kick drums so tightly they became one instrument, one pulse, the kind of pocket Gary Talent had lived in for 4 decades with Bruce, that unshakable foundation. But then Prince added slap technique, funk influence again, thumb hitting the strings, fingers popping back, creating percussive rhythm that complemented the drums without competing. Melodic runs appeared. Jazz influence. The bass wasn't just holding down low end anymore. It was having conversations with the drum fills, responding, anticipating, like 2 musicians who'd played together so long they could read each other's minds. Bruce stood up from the couch. He's not just playing bass. He's playing like he's hearing what the drums need. But he's the drummer. He's talking to himself. The bass line was exactly 4 minutes. Perfect length to match the drum track. 1 take, no mistakes, no hesitation. Prince stopped, set the bass down. Now the studio monitors played drums and bass together. Full rhythm section, the foundation of any rock band, complete. But it was just Prince, one person, creating the sound of 2 musicians locked in groove together. He reached for the Telecaster hanging on the wall. Blonde finish, classic rock guitar. Plugged it into a vintage amp, turned up the gain. Bruce whispered to himself, amazed. He's creating the E Street Band, alone, piece by piece. The rhythm section was complete, but Bruce still hadn't grasped the full scope of what he was witnessing. Prince wasn't replicating the E Street Band. He was demonstrating that band chemistry could exist entirely within one person's ability to embody multiple musical personalities. Prince positioned the Telecaster, adjusted the strap, put headphones on again. The drum and bass groove filled his ears. He hit record, started with rhythm guitar, power chords, Springsteen-style rock, driving, aggressive, serving the song, nothing fancy, just solid foundation that made people want to pump their fists. But then funk scratches appeared, percussive technique. The guitar becoming another rhythm instrument, muted strings creating texture between the chord changes, chord inversions added sophistication. Not just playing EAD like a beginner, finding voicings up the neck, creating harmonic richness that elevated the simple progression into something more complex without losing accessibility. Bruce was pacing now, couldn't sit. The rhythm guitar, that's how Steve Van Zandt would play it, but with extra color. Then Prince switched to lead, blues bends, notes screaming with emotion. The kind of soul that came from feeling, not technique, though the technique was flawless. Rock shredding followed, fast runs up and down the fretboard, showing technical ability without being self-indulgent. Every note served the song, built intensity, created catharsis. The guitar solo peaked with a sustained note, feedback controlled perfectly. The amp screaming, but musical. Then resolving back to the chord progression, 4 minutes. One take. Prince set the guitar down. Bruce stood motionless, staring at the speakers like they were performing magic. The track now had drums, bass, rhythm guitar, and lead guitar. 4 distinct musicians, 4 different personalities, 1 person. 20 minutes total. 5 minutes of work per instrument. The math didn't make sense, but the music did. But Prince wasn't done proving that concentrated soul could match collective soul. He still had to demonstrate that vocal harmony, the most human element of music, could be created by one person having conversations with himself. Have you ever assumed there was only one way to create something real? Bruce thought soul required a band, that working alone meant sterile perfection. Prince proved that concentration isn't isolation. It's every musician you've studied living inside you at once. Share your thoughts below. Prince moved to the vocal microphone, studio-grade condenser, positioned in the center of the purple-lit room. He adjusted the pop filter, put on different headphones, Q-mix balanced perfectly. Hit record again. His voice came out different than Bruce expected, not the usual Prince falsetto or smooth delivery. This was raspy, rock voice, grit, the kind of vocal that came from American highways and working-class stories, lead vocal tract, melody simple enough to sing along with in a bar, but delivered with conviction that made every word feel earned through experience. Then Prince recorded Harmony 1, higher register, adding sweetness above the grit, the contrast creating dimension. Harmony 2, lower register, adding depth below the lead. Now 3 voices stacked, creating richness. Background shouts, "Hey!" at strategic moments, E Street Band style, the kind of call and response that made audiences feel included. Prince recorded those separately, 5 different takes of background energy. Bruce was standing directly in front of the speakers now, watching Prince become a choir. He's doing all the vocal parts, lead, harmony, backgrounds, a one-man choir. The final 2 minutes, Prince moved to the mixing console, adjusted levels while the song played. Drums up slightly, bass sitting perfectly under the guitars, lead vocal forward but not overwhelming the harmonies. EQ adjustments, carving out frequency space so every instrument had room to breathe. Reverb on the vocals, not too much, just enough to create space. Compression on the mix bus bringing everything together. 20 minutes total. From empty studio to complete song, full band sound. But only Prince had touched the equipment. He pressed stop, turned to Bruce. Sterile? Bruce's response would reveal that his 40-year philosophy about collective creation had just encountered an equally valid truth he'd never considered, that some people contain entire bands within their creative consciousness. Bruce stood silent for 10 seconds, processing. His mouth opened, but no words came out immediately. Finally, I don't. How? Prince remained by the console. You said rock needs a band, sweat, eye contact, human energy bouncing between musicians. Yes, that's what I've always believed. But what if one human has all that energy? What if I am the band? Drummer, bassist, guitarist, singer, all sweating, all feeling, just in sequence, not simultaneous. Bruce walked closer to the console, looked at the tape machine still recording the silence after the song. The drum part. That was alive, like Max Weinberg playing. I felt his pocket, his intensity, because I studied Max, listened to E Street Band albums for 20 years, internalized his feel, how he locks with Gary's bass, how he pushes the tempo slightly on choruses. Then I added my funk influence. The bass. That was Gary's pocket, walking lines, melodic choices, but with slap technique he doesn't use. Learned from him, but filtered through my experience. I'm not copying, I'm channeling, then transforming. Bruce's voice showed emotion he rarely displayed. And the guitar solo, that had soul, not sterile, not machine. Human pain and joy compressed into notes. Prince's response was quiet. Because I'm human. Alone doesn't mean robotic. Alone means focused. Every bit of energy I have goes into the music, not divided between conversation and creation, not diluted by compromise, concentrated. Bruce sat back down on the purple couch. Not from exhaustion, but from the weight of revelation. I spent 40 years believing rock is collective. That magic happens between people. Eye contact during the bridge. The moment when someone plays something unexpected and everyone follows. It does happen that way. Your way is valid. But you just showed me collective can be internal. You're not one person. You're 5 people in one body. Each instrument, different personality. They talk to each other. Inside you. Prince's teaching moment would reveal why he'd chosen solitude not as isolation, but as the purest form of creative control, and why both democracy and dictatorship could create equally powerful rock music. Prince moved to sit beside Bruce on the purple couch. 2 legends, equal footing. Bruce, the E Street Band is beautiful. 40 years with the same musicians, chemistry, family, brotherhood. That's one way to capture soul. It's the only way I've ever known. But my way? Solo? That's different soul. Not less. Different. I don't lose energy working alone. I concentrated. Bruce nodded slowly, understanding forming. You spread soul across 8 people. I compress soul into one. Both valid, both rock. Exactly. But why work alone? Why not build your band, your own E Street? Prince's face showed vulnerability. Rare, because trust, control, vision. When I'm alone, no compromise, no, let's try it this way. Just pure expression, no filter between brain and recording. So my band is democracy. Your solo is dictatorship. Both make great music. Different governance. Bruce extended his hand. Prince took it. Prince, I came here thinking I'd teach you about real rock, but you just taught me. We taught each other. I've been making rock with a band for 40 years. You just made rock alone in 20 minutes that rivals my best. You're not one-man band, you're one-man army. Prince smiled. Not army, just different process. You cook with 8 chefs. I cook alone. Both make good food. Bruce stood. Energy returning. The song you just made. Can I add to it? E Street style? You want to collaborate? Add band to my solo? Yeah. Show what happens when your compression meets my expansion. Solo plus band. See what that sounds like? Prince considered. Tomorrow. Bring E Street. We'll see if democracy and dictatorship can coexist. Deal. Next day, Studio A, 2 p.m., E Street Band arrived. Prince played his 20-minute solo track. The band listened in silence. Then Clarence Clemens picked up his saxophone. Roy Bittan positioned himself at organ. Additional guitars plugged in, they added to Prince's foundation, not replacing, augmenting, saxophone lines weaving through the guitar solo. Organ pads creating atmospheric space, percussion adding texture to the drums. The result was fusion. Solo compression plus band expansion, creating something neither could make alone. 1996. Purple Streets, released. 2 versions. Prince solo version and E Street Band collaborative version. Critics called it impossible collaboration that worked. 2011. Clarence Clemens died. Prince performed tribute, played saxophone solo himself. Self-taught. Honoring Clarence. Bruce watched from audience, crying. 2016. Prince died. Bruce Springsteen gave tribute at Rock Hall. 1995, Paisley Park. Prince showed me rock has no formula. I thought band equals soul, but Prince was 5-person band in one body. That's not lonely. That's powerful. Miss you, one-man army. 2024. Bruce interview. Prince taught me the most important lesson. There's no one way to capture soul. My way is collective. His way is concentrated. Both real, both rock. I was wrong to judge. Questlove, later hearing the story from Bruce. Prince making full band track in 20 minutes alone? That's not music. That's alchemy. Bruce needed 8 people, 8 hours. Prince needed himself, 20 minutes. Different math, same magic. Prince didn't lock that studio door to prove Bruce wrong. He locked it to demonstrate that the most important musical conversations aren't always between different people. Sometimes they're between different versions of yourself who've learned to play every instrument with equal soul. The greatest artists don't defend their method. They prove it works while respecting other methods. Prince showed Bruce that concentration equals collective, that one person containing 5 musicians creates soul, just as real as 5 people containing one mission. Share this story with someone who thinks there's only one way to create something authentic. But this wasn't the only time Prince proved that solitude amplifies rather than diminishes creative power. There was another night, another studio, another moment when Prince demonstrated that working alone doesn't mean working without soul. It means focusing every particle of soul into one relentless creative force. That story begins with a producer who told Prince, "Your vision is too personal to reach people," and Prince's response became the most universal music he ever created.